Thank you. Two more questions, please. Go on.
President, my first question for Mr. Barroso. As Chairperson was saying in the opening speech, one of the challenges you had, maybe the biggest one, between these 5 meetings was implementation issues of some of the things that you have agreed to put on the ground. How is EU planning to execute the problem in this aspect of implementing what was on paper so that Africa can really benefit from the relationship, and so is Europe? Second question for Madam is Europe is still in the crisis, although countries are recovering. Some of them are still in the woods. How is Africa, now that economically growing, can take a lesson out of this particular point? Thank you.
The issue of implementation, we have also discussed. What I believe is very simple. Decisions taken should be implemented. It's a question of credibility, both in the European Union and the African Union side. This is the reality. To be honest, in the European Union, in terms now speaking about the European Commission, we have more instruments for implementation. Why? Because the European Commission has some competences, including the competence of launching infringement against the member states when they don't comply. That does not make us always popular, but it's very useful. The African Union, in terms of the institutionalization of the competences of the African Union Commission, I have to be honest, it's not so strong. We have to face this clearly. That's why, by the way, we have been from the beginning supporting also the institutional capacities of the African Union Commission as such. And today we briefly exchanged some of our assessment. But problems of lack of implementation again exist all over. And I think, I repeat, it's a matter of credibility, that namely when leaders meet at summit level, that decisions have to be followed through. And in fact, one of the goals of our meeting today was to see that, to see what we are doing in the different fields. That's in the spirit that we will continue to work with our African Union partners.
What was your question to me?
My question was, Madam, on the economic crisis in Europe and how Africa...
Okay. Yeah. No, obviously, the European Union has had a long life compared to the AU, and they also have stronger institutions and stronger financial basis. But the important thing for us is to learn from them is the solidarity that we have seen within the EU itself, but also the importance of the union, because individually the countries that have been in problems, I don't think they would have been able to pull through without the support of the union. And I think it's something that we are looking at and appreciating and learning from. I think equally, if we look at the lessons that we've learned in the last 50 years, is precisely that. In terms of the decolonization of Africa and the struggles that countries like my own country against apartheid had, benefited a lot from the always use solidarity, and countries big and small pulling together to support us. So that Africa has had it in a different context, and we are also appreciating it in the context of what's happening in the EU and internationally.
Thank you. The final question here, please.
Philip Hedem, to the Chairperson of the AU Commission and the President of the European Commission. In which way can the European Union be a role model for the African Union, and where can it not be a role model?
That just the question that was asked before, what is going on and the support that the EU is giving to its individual members is a role model. And I think also in the way they have developed and the instruments that they've put in place to make sure that the decisions they take are not just decisions that end up on the shelf, but are implemented, even if they have to be implemented at member state level, because that's one of the areas that we really lack, how to make sure that member states implement. The only mechanism we have is only on unconstitutional changes of government. They were able to at least suspend the member until there is constitutionality. So there are areas that we think we can learn from the EU from. But also there are areas that I think African Union can move on its own. For instance, the EU has grown on an incremental basis. We started with all countries and we are moving together, all 54 countries. And we are not putting a lot of conditions for people to join. We started together, we're moving together. It may not be the ideal, but we think for our situation, it is the best way to go. Maybe I'll leave it at that for now.
That's a very interesting question. I would prefer not to use the word role model, while I understand the reasons behind it, because it's, in a way, it's a kind of supposing that there is one model. I prefer to say there are indeed, in our experience in Europe, some reasons for inspiration for others around the world. I believe this is true. Looking at European history, after the terrible experience of the two world wars that happened in Europe, after the terrible experience of the Shoah, the Europeans were able to start a process of European integration that now unites in peace and democracy and freedom 27, very soon 28 countries that before were deeply divided. When, together with my colleagues from the European Union, I had the honor to receive, on behalf of the European Union, the Nobel Peace Prize this year in Oslo, I spoke about this. Not as a model, but as a source of inspiration for those in other parts of the world where we see still wars going on. In the European Union today, we can say that war is unthinkable. And one of the reasons for that was precisely to create a real interdependence between our countries. Now, as Dr. Zuma just said, the process of the African Union was different. That started as a pan-European project, while the European Community process started from 6, afterwards 9, 10, 12, 15, 25, 27, now 28 countries. It's a different process. So that's why I don't like the word model. But the idea of, in the full respect of the individuality of our nations, of our countries, having something that goes beyond them, I think this is very much the same inspiration in Africa and in the European Union.